So thank you for attending the New Horizons Computer Learning Center's Tableau webinar on managing risk and growing your business with Tableau. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. I am John O'Keefe, Technology Education Jedi here with Logical Operations. Today we will be going over a very brief agenda. We're going to cover what is Tableau and a little bit around the world that we live in which Tableau has become so important. We're going to cover a little bit about why you should use Tableau, how it helps you manage risk, and how it will help you grow your business. Then we're going to cover some logistics of taking a Tableau class from New Horizons. So 2019 is really the year of data. And the reason we say that is because The Economist has called data the world's most valuable resource. And 7 of the 10 most valuable companies in the world are built on tying human behavior to data. Uh, when I was born in 1980, the world's largest companies were ExxonMobil, General Motors, Ford Motors, IBM, and General Electric. What do all those companies have in common? Well, they take a natural resource and they produce a good from it, whether it's energy, automobiles, computer parts, or healthcare components. They all took natural resources and built something with them. Now, 7 of the 10 most valuable companies don't produce anything physical, which has led us to what's being called the fourth industrial revolution. So, what exactly is that, you may be asking? Well, Klaus Schwab, who is the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, has dubbed the era that we live in as the fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution, of course, being the rise of the factory in the late 1700s and early 1800s. The second industrial revolution in the early 1900s being the rise of the assembly line. And the third industrial revolution being the development of the personal computer and the internet in the late 1980s and 1990s. All leading to where we're at now, which is the fourth industrial revolution, which is this ability to share data in massive data sets back and forth across the internet, and also our ability to collect and store more and more data. My first computer had a 20 megabyte hard drive in it, and now I have about 70 terabytes of hard drive storage at home. So, and that's only in the period of about 25 years. So, as you can tell, we've gone from a massive what we considered massive to be 20 megabytes to, of course, now many, many petabytes of data being massive. Also, all of these businesses that you see here on the screen in front of you represent one of large players in our economy, and none of them create or make anything. Facebook is the world's largest repository of content, and they don't create any of it. Uber is the largest provider of transportation services, and they own no vehicles. Google, of course, is the largest information provider in the world, and they don't own any of that information. They just collect it. And Airbnb is the world's largest provider of hospitality services, and they own no property. So this is a major shift in the economy, and it's something that all businesses, large and small, have to deal with. And one of the easiest ways of which they can get there, of course, is through training. And that's why the training industry in 2019 has really become focused on IT certifications. IT certifications are going to be a $3 billion industry in 2019, which means that if you're on this call and you're a business, something you should be considering is training your employees in what are IT certifications. So just a couple of facts about the training industry this year. 27% of companies are going to pursue certification training as their number one goal in 2019. 15% of companies have increased their training budget by over 25%. Large companies are spending 2.5 times more per employee in 2019 training, and 65% of businesses increase their budget to an increased scope of training. So all of this leads to organizations that are looking to train their employees on high value software and hardware components, one of which is Tableau. So what exactly is Tableau? If you're not familiar with it, we're going to cover it right now. Every organization, of course, has data. You don't need to be a Google or a Facebook to have data. Your local mom and pop pizza shop is collecting data on their customers from an app or from their online ordering system, or just data that they're using to market and send out flyers. Now, what does data typically look like? Well, it comes from all different types of data sets, from sales records, shipping manifests, employee time cards, customer satisfaction surveys, marketing responses, and open rates, not to mention supply chain, blockchain, other types of proprietary data sets. And what typically organizations have been doing, and when we get into some of the use case scenarios later, they've been loading data into Excel. And Excel is a great program. And I'm willing to bet that every organization that's on this call has some Excel power users in house. And they take all of this data, and it takes them a long time, but then they produce something that looks like this, which is an Excel spreadsheet, many rows and many columns. And any of us looking at this kind of probably have a rough idea of exactly what this is. The question, though, is that looking at this, can we understand anything about this company? And the answer is maybe. It looks like this is some sort of it looks like this is some sort of business report around some products. There appear to be some monetary values. And other than that, I'm not really entirely sure what I'm looking at. And that's the challenge that organizations are facing, is how do we take all of this data and turn it into actionable insight? Well, one of the ways in which we can do that is through Tableau. Tableau is a program that takes data from almost any source, including Excel, SQL, Google Analytics, SAP, Salesforce, and other CRMs, and even PDFs, and it can load this data from single sources, multiple sources, live updated sources, and take that data and change it into a visualization. So as we load this data into Tableau, we're able to then take this data, and using simple filters and tool sets that anyone can learn, we can create stunning interpretations of data in a visual format. Now, inside of Tableau, all of the data sets that you're about to see would be manipulatable and clickable, meaning that when you look at this specific data set, I could click on any state on the map there, any of those circles, and be able to pull up the data on each individual state. So here is a visualization that shows election data, and shows US election data from 1988 to 2016. Very simply, I've clicked on Ohio here, and I can see how Ohio leans in all the elections that we've had since 1988. I could click on California, I could click on New York or Texas or Florida and see the exact same data represented as accurately as the data that was loaded into this visualization. Now, instead of looking at a spreadsheet and trying to understand, I can now simply see whether they lean more to the right or more to the left, in which years, and how those states have traditionally voted. If I were working on a poll, this would be something that would be very helpful for me. Next up, we have a Harry Potter family tree. As the technology education Jedi here at Logical Operations, I do like to throw in something geeky in all my presentations. And I love this because this was all created by a Reddit user from Excel data. And each one of these individual points, you could click on, and it will bring up a photo and information about each of the Harry Potter characters. Now, how does that relate to business? Well, imagine using this as an org chart or as a workflow chart. You'd be able to click on any employee, see who their direct reports are, who they report to, their Discord or Slack IDs, their email address, their phone number, their cell phone, and what projects they're working on. Tableau can take all of this data and then keep it updated live. As I move from one project to another, I move on this map here, and that way anyone inside the organization can see what they're doing. Tableau can also just take data sets and present a great business case. This is a simple data set around why McDonald's is doing well in Japan. And it gives you all sorts of information and why it's happening. Increased spending on fast food, strong tourism growth, rice consumption going down in Japan, gross profit going up, and cheap yen attracting tourists. Now, if I were to take all of this data on individual spreadsheets and go to my C-suite and try and present that, they'd probably look at me like I have three heads. But this tells a very simple visual story that anyone can understand. And that's what Tableau does very well. Lastly, Tableau can also take data and map it out for you. So on this data here, we're seeing an individual snowplow that was fitted with an IoT sensor and what route it took during a snowstorm. This can help city planners make sure that trucks aren't overlapping in routes, that they're being as efficient as possible, which saves on gas, street maintenance, and also make sure that that they are being efficient with the routes, which saves the city money. So Tableau is a great way of taking all of this data and doing what we call democratizing it, meaning anyone inside an organization can understand it. And to give you an idea of exactly what that would look like, I'm going to present to you a hospital Tableau chart, and you're going to tell me how quickly you're able to understand what's happening here. On the left, we have the hourly patient load. On the right, we have daily averages, and on the bottom, we have wait time by unit. So what's happening here? Very quickly, we're able to see that it's blue in the morning and red in the evening. And what does that tell our brains? It tells us that we're busier in the evenings than we are in the mornings. Then on the right, we're able to see that in September, October, November, December, we're down, whereas we were up earlier in the year. And in the bottom, we're able to see that Med 1T unit and Surge 4 unit seem to have the longest wait times by far. So what does that mean? How does that democratize data? Us, as people that don't even work in this hospital, are very quickly able to see that we're busy in the evenings, two units have really long wait times, and the end of the year seems to be way less busy for us. So what can we do about that? Well, as you can see, Tableau allows you to communicate and share this data. And if we were working in this hospital, we might work to change the staffing on the Med 1T unit and the Surgery 4 unit. We may look to increase staffing in the evening, and we may look to understand why we're having less patients from September to December. What happened? Is this something we can change? Is this something we can work through? So it's truly the democratization of data. If we were to look at spreadsheets for this, we would have no idea what was going on with this hospital. That's something that somebody would have to sift through and spend many, many hours on. But from just looking at this chart over 2 minutes, we're able to quickly make business decisions based on this data. And that's the power of Tableau. That is why Tableau lives in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. The Gartner Magic Quadrant is what Gartner uses to show organizations that have a high ability to execute on what they're doing and have a high completeness of vision. So as you can see here, there are some companies that have a real completeness of vision, like SAS and Tibco and Salesforce, but they don't really have the ability to execute as well as a company like Tableau. So the Magic Quadrant is the far upper right, and that's where Tableau and Microsoft live. So that is why Tableau has over 80,000 customers worldwide and growing. They've seen an increase of their business 35% over the last year. They have some of the largest customers in the world, including Google, Bank of America, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Honeywell, Cisco, Chipotle, etc. And they also held an annual conference, which in 2018 had 17,000 attendees. So Tableau is a great product. It helps bring data democratization to your organization, and it can make anyone inside your organization a data analyst or a data scientist. So now on to the more nitty gritty. Why would you use Tableau? Well, from a data scientist perspective, Tableau and data science itself has been called the sexiest job in the 21st century. So if you're in a management position and you're trying to understand what types of jobs to add to your organization, data science is a great way of attracting key talent. Demand for data scientists is already soaring. It's going to be up by 28% by 2020. And organizations are currently looking for Tableau users. There's currently over 23,000 job listings for Tableau, meaning many organizations are looking to hire power users. And as a job feature, that's something that you can look into as an organization. We've also seen a rapid rise in the increase in IoT. IoT is technology is in 95% of electronic products. There's going to be 20.4 billion connected devices by 2020. And healthcare alone has seen a growth of over 680% in installed base of healthcare IoT devices by next year. By 2025, it's expected that IoT will be a $534 billion market in healthcare alone. Now, what does that mean? Why is that important? Well, IoT is nothing but sensors that record and try and understand data. If you take a look at healthcare alone, that means that there's going to be a rapid rise in the increase in amount of data going back and forth. And that data's got to do something. That data gets loaded into repositories, gets turned into Excel data or other types of reports, and then gets fed into things like Tableau. And that's how organizations are trying to really understand their data, is through these data democratization tools. So just IoT alone is driving huge amounts of adoption for programs like Tableau and Power BI. And if you're not using those types of programs, you likely are gaining more data than you know what to do with. And that data is only valuable to you if you can understand it. So getting in front of that is really important. Tableau also recognizes that security is very important, which is why Tableau fits into the Sarbanes-Oxley SOX regulation requirement. They are on the Service Organization Control 2 report, and they're part of the EU-US Privacy Shield. So how can you manage your risk with Tableau? Tableau has built-in security controls on their desktop applications and servers. They allow you to name power users. They allow you to implement with Active Directory and LDAPs. So Tableau really does have security in the forefront of their vision, and they want to keep your data secure. Tableau is also GDPR compliant with their data and will likely be CCPA compliant when that's released next year. So as far as the security risk, Tableau does everything that they can internally to keep themselves compliant with your security protocols inside your organization, which is why many organizations have chosen Tableau to help democratize their data. We're going to go through some of those use cases right now. So hopefully you can see why Tableau and then concurrently Tableau Training can be of value to you. So the first case study is Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines was seeking new insight into what's happening during every domestic flight. And Southwest then became the first US domestic airline to use big data systems and Tableau analytics using an industrial internet and cloud computing. They were able to start running data democratization tools on all of their domestic flights. So once they got those analytics, they wanted to drill down into each individual plane and flight to discover how decisions and were altering their profitability. And they figured out that their number one highest spend was, of course, on fuel. And so using Tableau and other data democratization tools, they were able to rewrite their flight manuals for their pilots, looking at things like how long can they idle on a runway for before it starts to get too costly, and what weather and what altitude they should be flying at to be more efficient with their flight costs. And doing so, they were able to transform a torrent of raw data about individual flights into actionable insight that was able to optimize their airline operations. With that, they've been able to save $100 million in operating costs annually just by using data democratization tools like Tableau. A similar story is UPS. UPS is using fleet management tools to track what they're doing, but they were struggling with drivers who were repeating routes, who were driving trucks that were out of date for maintenance, and who were burning up a ton of gas costs. As you can imagine, UPS has a huge fuel supply problem. And so by taking all of their data from IoT sensors built into their trucks, they were able to load it into Tableau and use data democratization tools to understand when their drivers were repeating routes, when their drivers were driving too aggressively, when trucks needed maintenance as opposed to waiting for them to break down. And doing so, UPS is able to save 39 million gallons of fuel annually. Now, Chipotle is a really interesting one because back in 2015, Chipotle had a health crisis scare where a bunch of people got sick at their restaurants. So Tableau took a look and said, okay, we've got over 20 different we've got over 20 different KPIs here that we're dealing with. And we're really challenged with how these key performance indicators are being ranked and evaluated. They were coming in with over email, they were coming in over Excel, they were coming from proprietary systems, operational grids, supply chain, blockchain, just too many things for restaurant managers to really understand and take care of. Not to mention that there wasn't really any visibility. So if you were part of a delivery system where the Chipotle a town over got a bad case of produce, you as a manager of the next stop on that delivery weren't alerted to whether or not your produce was rated high or low or poor. And so it caused a lot of health problems because they just simply couldn't keep up. Store managers were spending too many hours trying to really understand all this different data. So Chipotle came over and said to Tableau, we need help. And Tableau gave them the tools and said, go ahead, have at this, see what you can do. Chipotle spent 40 hours with some of their data analysts and data scientists, and they built a dashboard that contains all 20 different KPIs. And it's easy to understand, and every manager in over 2,000 stores can then see what every single store is doing. And now, when a store next door to yours gets a bad produce delivery, you've got an alert from Tableau. And this has helped save Chipotle over 10,000 hours from just their management team in the stores alone. And of course, as you can imagine, if you're paying those people $15 per hour, then you're saving $150,000 per month. So you're saving, more than $1 million or $2 a year just from 40 hours of some of your folks building out a dashboard. Honeywell, which is one of the world's Fortune 100 companies and a global analytics hub for a $40 billion company, has been using Tableau since March of 2016, where they went from 0 to 9,000 Tableau users. Since adopting Tableau, Preetham Shahbag, the Senior Director of Operations and Transformation, estimates that Honeywell has saved 10 to 20,000 man hours per month. When it comes to business value, Preetham says you really can't put a price on how valuable Tableau is for them. Powered by Tableau and Alteryx, the team analyzes data from over 150 disparate ERP systems, including SAP, Oracle, Navision, JD Edwards, just to name a few. And the Global Finance Center previously had analyzed data with just Excel and some small other tools, which would take them months of extraction, manipulation, and transformation. For example, a standard sales reporting used to take up to 3 or 4 months to produce. When the team adopted Tableau, they could create the same report in an hour or less. Preetham says, but more than that, it's the business value, and you really can't put a price on that. We would spend 70% of our time on data extraction and all the drudge work, and only 30% of their time on analytics. Now it's just the opposite, which means you can see a direct impact in P&L in terms of business decisions by this. So just by adding Tableau, Honeywell was able to flip the script, and now they spend 70% of their time on analytics work and only 30% of their time on data extraction. So again, saving 20,000 hours per month. Which results in which results in millions of dollars of savings for Honeywell. And finally, Pepsi. To make sense of data from retail customers, PepsiCo adopted Tableau and reduced report production time by as much as 90%. Using Trifacta, the CPFR team wrangled disparate data, pulling it into Tableau for forecasting and analysis, reducing, therefore, end-to-end runtime of PepsiCo's analysis by as much as 70% and report production time as much as 90%. With faster, accurate reporting, PepsiCo has a competitive advantage in the retail space and provides best-in-class service to their customers. Now, PepsiCo's customers provide them with reports that include warehouse inventory, store inventory, and point of sale inventory. PepsiCo reconciles this data with their own shipment history, production numbers, and forecast data. Each customer has their own data standards too, which didn't correspond with each other, let alone PepsiCo's system. So for example, PepsiCo relied on UPC codes to identify each product, while customers created their own internal numbers. This meant that the team primarily relied on Excel for analysis, creating large quantities of messy data. And the team had no efficient way to spot errors, leading to potentially costly outcomes. For example, a missing product from a report could result in inaccurate forecasts and lost revenue. What Tableau does for Pepsi is it provides them with a powerful analytics and visualization tool, which helps them make business sense of the volumes of data they've got. PepsiCo analysts share relevant Tableau workbooks with management over Tableau server. And with that, PepsiCo has managed to create a 90% reduction in report production time. So I want you to imagine this as someone in a management position. If I came to you and said that by simply adding a software tool and some training for your employees, you could reduce report times by 20%. You could save 20,000 man hours a month. You could save $100 million a year. That is absolutely a compelling reason to get your staff on board with Tableau and trained up on business intelligence. And what's the best way to do that? Well, we believe people learn best from people, and it's taking a training class from New Horizons. So why take a training class from New Horizons? All of this I've said to you, saving all of this money, you're probably thinking, well, I need to spend weeks and weeks and weeks training my employees on this. Well, you actually don't. The Tableau training from New Horizons is fast. It's 2 or 4 days of training, and that's it. It's effective, which it's instructor-led. It's either in person or online live, and it's got plenty of hands-on activities so your employees will learn. And it's affordable. Tableau training can run anywhere from $900 to $1,200 per 2 days of training, and where there's authorized Tableau training from Tableau directly, costs $1,500 to $1,700 per day. I believe New Horizons offers training right in that price range, and so you'll have a great option with which you can bid for training with them. Tableau Desktop Part 1, which is the entry-level class, is 2 days of training, and it maps to the first half of the Desktop Qualified Associate certification. And students will learn Tableau fundamentals, connecting to and preparing data, exploring data and managing and sorting and grouping that data, saving and sharing data, customizing those great visualizations I showed you earlier, and creating maps, dashboards, and stories. So this is everything an organization would need to get started with Tableau. If you want to become a true power user, you also take Desktop Part 2, which maps to the second half of the Desktop Qualified Associate certification and covers blending and joining data, accessing data in PDFs, refining those visualizations with sets and parameters, manipulating data with calculations, visualizing data with advanced calculations, performing statistical analysis using R2 and cubes, and forecasting, and then enriching visualization dashboards and maps. So between Tableau Part 1, which would be great for most users inside an organization, and Tableau Part 2, this will give you a power user for Tableau Desktop, which is the most popular way that Tableau is deployed currently. And with that, being conscious of our time, we have concluded our presentation. If you're looking for more information on Tableau training, including pricing, you can visit nhlearninggroup.com/Tableau. You can also contact Terry Mott at tmott@nhlearninggroup.com or at 1-888-594-3817, and they'll be able to answer any questions you might have. And with that, thank you very much. Hope this was informative. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask.